Okay, the memory map. Yay, some cool stuff. Okay, so we have 16 megs of RAM. It's plenty, right? So nobody should complain, oh, I don't have enough RAM to do this awesome game and everything. 16 meg of RAM. Out of this, at the bottom page, you have 8 megs of it. At the top of the memory, you have 1 meg of flash, or EEPROM divided by 2, one for us and one for the user. Then the 8 megs of RAM is divided, and so you have like 7 megs of free space if you want to add more or add other stuff into your expansion card. So plenty. In the 8 megas of RAM, the 1 meg on the top has been reserved for the wiki, for the graphics, although it could be expanded, it could be moved. There will be a dual memory page system, like a dual buffering system, because if you start putting a lot of stuff on the screen, you might need to have a double buffering system. So that's going to be very variable and very valuable, so you can move it somewhere else if you want. As much the same thing for the text modes, you can move it around probably anywhere you want. The sound is the same. I reserve like 1 meg for the sound. Obviously, if you want to play an orchestra with 24 voices at the same time, you might need a little bit more. That lasts for 10 minutes. Maybe you need more, but still, all of these things will be very flexible, very open. You can stretch them, make them smaller, bigger, put them somewhere else. It doesn't really matter. And at the bottom of the page, the 64K at the bottom, we're going to run the C256 from the get-go into an expansion into the 16-bit mode. Okay? Unless you want to run something in 6502, that you can switch it back to 6502 and then run 6502. The deal is that all the kernels will be written in 16-bit, not in 8-bit. And so in the 65.816, the 64-bit, the 64K is the page 0, which is the same page 0 we used to have, but it was like so tiny. So within the page at the bottom, you have at the bottom some buffer. When you boot up, the text buffer will be at the bottom of the page. I don't know if I put it in the same area as the old screen with the C64. It starts at 1000x, and then you have multiple buffers for the different parameters for the font. So to define the colors, to define the types, and all this stuff, so you have different variables on different planes. But this is the boot up sequence. Okay, at boot up, this is what it is. If you want to change it later, you can. You can move it somewhere else. You can change a lot of stuff. That's one of the things I was talking about. It needs to be variable, flexible. That's one of the features. Then we go into the thing we don't see at all. Okay, the gray one. Oh my God, even me, I don't see it. Wow. Yeah. Okay, hold on. What the? Anyway. No, seriously. Yeah. I don't know. It's Gavin stuff. So interrupts, prefetch, stuff like that. Also, I wanted to, after talking to some people, I will implement into Gavin a multiplier block and a division block for the CPU to use, because C6502 and 816 doesn't come with multiply and division. So to save time, we'll put that in the FPGA and get it to use some resources. I think there's one person happy over there. Yes, yes. So that's easy enough to put. So there's a lot of resources that it's not used in the FPGA, so that's one of them that we could use and put to good use. This block of color bar there is really in D0, so I tried to stick around with the C64 architecture, which was to put all their IOs in the D sections. They could be moved, by the way. They'll be able to move somewhere else if you want to, so if you so wish. So the Super IO stuff. So this is the place where all these 02F8, 03F8 COM ports will be located. So you just have to put a T in front of it and stay in page 0. Then we're moving on to wiki registers. There will be a lot of stuff in there. What else? What's the green stuff? Oh my God. This is Beatrix. Yeah, Beatrix, RTC, and what is that? The last one, the blue one? I think, oh yeah, because with Beatrix you can access all the sound chip directly. So you can access the SID, H chip individually through direct coding and everything. So if you feel like, oh, I don't want to do a DMA, I want to just write to it right away, you'll be able to do it right away. So this is the blue section, it's just the higher level. The Beatrix section is really about the DMA transfer and all these periodic update, which and how, and that kind of stuff. So that's in a nutshell what the memory map is today. And keep in mind that it could change, but right now this is what it is. So, where are we? Yay! Okay. So after I started to have this vision, and I had an epiphany. I said, okay, I need to do that. It's needed by the world. And I had the interview, and then I met Jim and said, oh, you have to come to CRX. And like he was begging. I'm sorry. He asked politely and nicely, Stefany, please come. I said, okay, cool, but I don't have anything to show. Well, okay. And then after thinking, well, okay, you know what? Maybe I can. And back then I was in Waterloo, in Ontario, and I just got a new job, so I moved to Vancouver, so I had to move. But I did start, and I created that board within two months. So shows are great for that. They just push you in the ass and say, hey, you have to create this thing because you need to show it, so it's done. So when I got it and I plugged it, it didn't set itself on fire, so which was great news, right? You know, nothing better than to have like a super, capacitor blowing in your face. Oops, I put it upside down or whatever. So it worked great. Really quickly, I had to get the CPU to see if it was running. So the CPU's running, it's trying to fetch, hey, give me some code, give me some code. So I have like a starving CPU right now. It's like, give me code, please. And it's still starving, and it will be starving for a while. And the challenge I had was that in order to supply all these all these chips, all these different chips from different generation, different time, they're running on all different types of clocks. So one is running at 14, one is 33, one 100. So I have a clock generator that comes from two oscillators I can derive, but I need to program it. So early on I didn't have any clocks. So no clocks, no heartbeat, nothing, so no computer. So that was my first challenge. So 2 weeks ago, a weekend, I started last weekend. I did that, so I made it work. It was great. Yeah, because it's programmed through I256, which will be completely isolated for the user, so no hacking into this. Okay, so any hacker here say, oh, I'm going to get this clock cranking up. I'm going to overclock the CPU real bad. No, that's not going to happen unless you hack the I256 itself. But anyway, the deal is the I256 talks to the video DAC controller, the video DAC registers, and for some reason I was going to attack this little thing really right. It was supposed to be working because I used it in class and it worked perfectly right, but apparently I forgot something because I was going to come here and show you a screen and say, hey, look, there's like graphics. But I failed miserably. Something wrong. You know when things are not supposed to happen. But anyway, I'm here still. I'm really close to make this thing work. But in the meantime, I got into Super I/O, and I'm about to be very vulgar right now. I fucked around this thing a lot. Sorry for the, apparently I might have forgot to put a couple of pull-ups on some pins. So, and those pins apparently are important. And there's like a story behind the 820 line on the PC where apparently it's supposed to be like this line that tells that if it's not one, then it doesn't boot or it doesn't start. So I left them floating. So my LPC doesn't start because it's been told not to start. So I tried to fix that this morning, although I didn't have a lot of time to actually investigate further and find out why. I actually made the patch on the board, tried to make it run, but still, I'm very close. I feel it. It's here, my guts. Yes, it's there. So when I get this little sucker to work, then I can have my Super I/O, so that means I can have my keyboard working. And then I'll put all my energy to get the video deck to work, so then I'll have graphics, have funds really quickly. So within like 2-3 weeks, I should have like a keyboard, text, and then at that moment we can start running codes, and then we can start, having fun. Okay, circuitry is working, so after that I need to go around to see if there's any problem, any other problems, and probably go through a revision A1 to fix those problems because there's a few bugs I need to fix, obviously. I'm great, but I'm not that great, right? So let's move on. So yes, keyboard, we can get code running, and this is really, the next step will be to get the debugger written for the Gavin. And I'm working with somebody else, Tom. I will talk about Tom a little bit later. And then I can start really doing the FPGA work for the graphic engine. Okay. Whew. Yeah. All right, you're still with me, guys? Yes? Yeah, nobody's sleeping? You're still browsing. Yeah, I was, you know, I listened to your presentation. You should really listen to mine, dude. No, I know, I'm just bugging. Okay, software. Okay, one of the guy who came on board, I mean, didn't come on board, I mean, it was very organic. So when I did the interview with Stefany, there was this guy, came on the forum and started posting on all the posts, on all the open threads, and oh, this should be like this. I was like so upset with, what the fuck is this guy? Where is he coming from, right? And it turns out it was Tom Wilson. He's a programmer for a big company in San Diego. And we started chatting, we started talking about stuff and blah, blah, blah. So he finally got on board. And early on, he was already thinking about getting like an emulator for the 816. So that really triggers his interest to go further. So he started finishing his work on his own emulator for the 816, start writing code. So right now, this is his code that he's writing. So will be probably responsible to write most of everything that has to do with the monitor. The monitor, the text editor. He's the one who wants to do the basic without the line number. So I don't know if he's going to do that one. Okay. And so the early input-output stuff, keyboard, screen, fonts, he's the one who's going to do the Betsky stuff. So all the stuff you need to actually get something working on the machine, to write some small command stuff. And then probably Jim will come around and do floppy stuff, and eventually we'll have way more. But yeah, so this is his mock-up stuff that he's been doing on his emulator, and that he wrote himself. And he will probably interface with Gavin, with the debugger, to make it even better. So that's one of the tools we'll be able to use to actually start programming with the C256 Foenix. Yeah, I'm trying to go faster, guys. I feel that we're sleeping. That's okay. I don't give up. I'll manage. Okay. Yeah. So Tom is the only one really that is on board right now. Hopefully more will come. I think more will come. I just need to get the hardware far enough so people will be able to do stuff. I know Dimitrius was really interested. I think as soon as I have some graphic stuff running, it'll get on board. It will work. I think Mr. Here, I'm sorry. Derek wants to be part of it early on, to be witnessing all the hardware development because he's very interested. If anybody else is interested to get involved early on, to be a early adopters and be able to report back or program and create stuff for it, it'd be great. So this is what Tom does. He's super cool. You should talk to Tom. You should talk to him. He's super awesome. He has like 20 C64, and, you know, the whole 9 yards, you know. So this is where we stand in terms of software. I don't know if I'm going to get my hands dirty at this point. We'll see. Maybe we'll. I thought I would, but I don't think I will have to because my savior is here and he's holding the camera. Yeah, it's going to be dark days ahead right here. Okay, so this is the plan. This is the schedule. Okay, maybe it's really, really, really like super, you know, aggressive, but that's my goal. Okay, I gave myself a year to do that, and you know, it was so faithful, and you know, everything just fell in place so easily that I feel that maybe it's going to be possible. So what I have to do left is just finishing debugging the board, making everything work, and probably go to a respin, get a few board built, and start passing those boards to people like Jim, people like Derek, people like Dimitrius, you know, for them to start doing stuff, and Tom. So by early October, that should happen, and yeah, early, mid-October, whatever, as soon as possible. That's really the game here. And then me, I'll be going back and finishing the FPGA design for Gavin, for Vicky, and for Beatrix. I will do the sound last because that's the one I know the less. because making sure, I mean, the access to the chip will be done earlier, but all the sequencing and all, make sure that everything happens at the right time will take a little bit more time. So I reserve that for later. The graphic part is easy for me. The system part will be easy for me, so that should be done pretty quickly. So I hope that by January, February 2019, all the FPGAs are done. So that means that at that point, everything else is just to create the last version of the board, deciding if, and I will make a survey about this. Give me 5 minutes. So creating the version, fix everything, and then maybe, and this is where the next slide we're going to come to, what do I do next? Do I do Kickstarter, whatever? We'll have to decide. You'll be the one to decide. On the software side, this is where your name is. Maybe it's too aggressive. We'll define it. Anyway, so I know that Tom is working very hard on this. I think by September, October, we certainly have basic stuff running on the system. And then we'll need the floppy support, so I put like November. It needs to be refined. But I mean, you know your stuff so much, it should be pretty fast, but you still have other stuff to do and you have a life, but you know. And then there's like, Dimitri talked to me about this API for game development, LDI or something like that. Is that it? LDI, you know? So it's a bunch of APIs that a lot of games uses, and you can port it from one game station to the other. Anyway, so there was a talk about creating a bunch of APIs in the kernel to be used either by the basic interpreter or any other system. So that's, I don't know if it's going to happen and when. The basic interpreter is, like I said, it's a big problem because we have to start from scratch. So we cannot take some Microsoft and start modifying. They're going to sue us, and I don't want to. And so we have to do a clean room. Some people love the without the number system, and people love the good old with number system. So anybody who's interested in the basic interpreter could do it. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I mean, in terms of vision, I'd like to have it. I want a basic interpreter. That's part of what it should be. But I don't want to delay the whole system being available for people just because of that. I think it would be kind of stupid. But since we can upgrade the flash, so somebody could get on it and say, yeah, I'll do it, and then 2 or 3 months later, after the unit is available, then we can upgrade everybody with it. And then the circle is closed and finished. And then what happens after that, the application support, any game, development, whoever wants to get involved will be able to do it, either through, I'll probably keep some development system ready for people who want to develop more. And so there will be 2 versions, one version for development and one version for the end user. And I will try to make as much connection with tools, because that's really my game. My game is to get this unit with as much development tools as possible, and as quickly as possible, like Arthur from CPM Programmer thingy. As long as you can get this really quickly, then you can get on it and have a blast doing something with it. So anybody interested in doing music, this is a great music box. Application porting stuff, it's going to be really ready, and I'm there to support anybody who wants to do anything like that early on. So anybody who's interested to do something, let me know. I'm all ears. So that's it. Okay, Kickstarter. Who think that I should do a Kickstarter when I'm ready? Raise your hand. Okay? Like Kickstarter when I'm ready, like in March, April. Yes, yes. Okay, awesome. Well, I'll need your help, guys, because I'm working in my basement. Well, it's not a basement, really, but I'm working in my room, and I don't have time to start attracting people for this. So at some point, if people are still interested and want to help, I will need more audience to get this thing to happen. The deal is really I want to be really close to be finished, almost finished. So I know what I'm getting into. We get everything manufactured, and then we ship everything really on a short amount of time. It's not, I don't want to finance the development of it. I just want to finance the manufacturing of it and to ship it out. So my wish list for so my expected date was be spring 2018, 19, maybe with or without BASIC, but at least the kernel is done and their software exists for it, games, porting, maybe not super fancy stuff, but at least something you can start with. And then, so my wish list is to be able to release it as soon as possible, and to be able to release a full functional kernel, game titles, a few game titles if possible. I mean, there's not a lot of time, but porting is usually easier and faster. So maybe Dimitris can do a few, and others. And if anybody wants to do any porting or creating new stuff for the music part, it would be great, or any other types of application. Even your modem thing, that could work. So to do BBSs and stuff. Okay? So again, anybody interested, and at what point, that will be interested to know. So I'm calling for early adopters, that I did already, so let's move on. Game developers, the early adopters are really the one who are okay about dealing with buggy and not finished hardware. Okay, somebody who's willing to say, okay, I'm good, and part of the deal is also to report on bugs, to say, hey, this doesn't work, it should work, the documentation says it should work, it doesn't work, fix it. And to come back and say, you know what, if you do it that way, if you did it that way, it would be better because of this, okay, I'll change it that way. So a report system, a look back to know what's going on from experienced people. You know, I can do a lot of features in the FPGA, but if people who actually develop games and know what they like and what they don't like, it's difficult for me to really give them what they need, which will ease the process of programming and creating games. Or no, yeah. Okay, so finally, so the game developers, game app developers that want to wait later, then I could support these people later, so maybe early 2019, so you would have something more closer to what it would be, so it's still possible, always possible. The final thing is that I already post that on my forums, and it's about this, that's the name I gave it, the CFP, this, you know, C256 Foenix Project. 9586, this is the SID version 2. Okay, so I know supplies of SIDs are running out. I don't want to impede on them, I don't want to take them all. That's that's the least thing I want to do, but I want something new. I want a SID, like Commodore would have decided to take the, I don't know the names guy, but the guy who designed the chip, and Sonic guy? Yeah. Okay, so he would have sat it down and say, hey, create a new version, which is compatible with the old one, but with more features, like a small sampling buffer or something. More voices, a sampling buffer, stuff like that. So I know it's a lot of work. I don't know if anybody knows the people who designed these emulations so far, but I've talked to a couple. Some are interested, but they're like a little bit frisky about spending so much time to actually create something specific for the C256. But in my vision, I thought, you know, that'd be great to have like 6 voices instead of 3, and have more feature, and then really that part would be dedicated for the C256, so it would become part of it, as opposed to be using the SID, the old SID, and not running out of taking all the remaining stuff that exists. Again, I'll be killed for that. You know, really, they'll go at the gates. So I'm calling anybody who knows, or anybody who wants to get into it and do it, that'd be great. I mean, the deal is that I know people want to be paid for their stuff, so I'm thinking maybe a licensing model or something, so people develop it, create something, and we just mass produce it, and they just get the license for every time we sell it. That's one model. I know a few people did it with the, well, not the licensing, but they did an FPGA version. I talked to the one who did the FPGA version in Europe, but he sells it like 130 euros for it. Huh? Yeah, something like that. It's super expensive. I mean, you buy 2 and it's more expensive than the C256 itself. So, but he didn't say no. It's just like he was about money for him. It's just like, I want to make my money. I want to get my money back. Blah 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 blah. It's okay. Right? So when this thing will be picking up, then it was, oh yeah, I'm interested now. That's how it's going to work out. But in the meantime, I would really have somebody who really believe in it and really want to do it. Part of the whole thing. This is a lot of work, I know. This is like very fancy, and but it's, again, I think it would make a lot of sense. On the board, actually, I've had it. The socket is a bit bigger for this because I had a couple of address lines. So to address new registers, I put the 14 megahertz clock, 3.3 volt supply, so you don't have to put these things on the board. If you would create like a small board to replace, yeah, that'd be that, and other stuff. Maybe, I don't know. So, just asking. So if you know anybody who would be interested, that'd be great. All right, Dan, the thank you time. Yay! Are you happy? I'm done. Yes. So that's the boring part. Okay, bear with me for 2 minutes. All right, thank you very much, Jim. Your beautiful wife. She's awesome. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm going to go through the list. Tomlinson, who is not here today, he was busy with his children, couldn't come. Thank you for him. Crontech is a place I work right now, and they're super awesome. They're geeky media. They're super supportive. So thank you to them and everybody else that have been supportive to the project. Hopefully there will be more. And anybody who wants to come in the project and work with us to make this thing a reality. And yeah, I think we all need something like that in our lives to make more fun, to have more fun and make it more bearable, so I certainly do. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening. That's me. Question times.
So I know your background because I did the stalker check and all that before you came here.
Yeah.
Some people may not understand your background in video.
Yes.
And such. So could you elaborate on your background in video and the camera stuff you've done and why you know graphics and all that stuff?
Okay. When you start doing electronic design, you always have a preference. Some people like networking, like different types of electronics. My thing was video and graphics. So even when I was a teenager, I was designing these boards with the 6845 and the fun generator, and I had like a CRT, black and white CRT, and I got my fun to display. So my passion comes from there, and then I got into the whole 90s. I started my first company, An Illusion, was in 1996 or 97, and we were trying to implement like a 3D acceleration geometry processor for the raster chip at the time, the Trident chip, the NVIDIA chip. So that was already a passion. I love 3D graphics, and I love graphics in general, and I just want to make it faster. I got backstabbed by my partner, and he went bankrupt. I bought the bankruptcy back, and then I started to do it again, but it was a bit too late because that was the 3DFX time, and still rasterizing stuff, So I had always an interest. And then I got into starting a new company on my own, and then I was trying to do parallel processing for video editing, to the post-production of video editing, so to accelerate the processing and everything. I went to LA. This is the time I went to LA, and the month I moved to LA to actually sell the product, the company, the chip that I was using, that was called Mbrick, that had like 200 processor inside, went bankrupt. So 2 months in LA, and there's no product. So I had to reinvent myself, and then this is the moment I started doing FPGA design and not rely on the custom chip that has nothing to do with anything, and mechanical design, and I started designing cameras and with sensors, and so I have to do the deburring, processing, the color correction, so all these things, so always in the same line of graphical stuff. So, and now quantum technology where I work is another camera company, so I'm still designing stuff for the camera, but it's a high-speed camera. You should look it up, it's awesome. But the thing I've learned about myself throughout these years is that's the vanity thing. So every time I try to do something for myself, it never worked. So now that David's been requesting it, it's not for myself, so it's working. No vanity project for me ever. So I cannot do something on my own and say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sell it. It's not going to, I know it's going to fail, so I don't even bother these days. So yeah, it's funny. So that's my love of graphic. I love just freaking pixels. I don't know. Some people love music. I love music, but freaking pixels. And the first time you see all the pixels on the screen, yeah, awesome. So very fun. You're going?
I'm going to get some rest.
All right.
I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. See ya. All right. Next questions? Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about your directing and movie experience?
Oh my God.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I went to LA. The first year I brought my product. I didn't have any product after 2 or 3 months. And then I kind of lost interest, and then I tried to design something that was not related to, because I got turned back. That's part of the story. I'm coming to the point. I got turned back by software people because, oh, that's a black box. We don't want to support a black box. So what's the point? So in a way, I tried to design something that didn't have to rely on drivers or support by a third party. So I designed cameras, but it didn't work so well. So at some point in 2011, I came back to Montreal, and I ran out of money, and I came back to Montreal, and eventually I worked on the camera for a while, and then I tried to sell it. I sold it to somebody else. So I got enough money to come back, and this is where, in the first part, I got invited to that's a fun story. Okay, let's step back a little bit. I have this thing about going to Starbucks. Okay, Starbucks is my place. I always go to Starbucks, and I always end up to a new place. When you move to a new place, you want to get to know new people. Easy. You go to Starbucks every single day. Okay, and then you always end up knowing new people. Say, hey, you've been there yesterday, so you end up doing so. I got to know this girl. She was an actress. I mean, in Hollywood, they're everywhere, right? They're just like, oops. an actress, that's the thing, right? So she's going to this school, Beverly Hills Playhouse, and she brought me in and she got me to see one of the thing, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, yeah, I could do that, because I was super interested in movie. I didn't know what I was going to do, I didn't know what I wanted to do. That was the reason why I was there in the first place. So everything went down the drain, didn't work, so I sell my stuff, I come back, and all of a sudden, I get re-invited again. But at that point, the second time was really like, oh my god, I see because the way it works is that you have a bunch of actors setting up scenes, and they do the scenes, and the teacher critique the scene at the end and say, oh, this was good, that was bad, maybe you should do this, blah, blah, blah. So I was there, I saw a whole night of scenes, and then I saw the director start directing, and said, oh, do that, do that. I was like, oh yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And it turned out I got into the school, I did it for a year and a half. I was pretty good at it, although I'm a female, so hey, no future in Hollywood for me, but I did it anyway. But the third times I did, my third scene I did, for any American here, you know this, is the streetcar named Desire. Okay, so I put this up. Okay, I'm French. Okay, I have no clue what this thing means, but I do it. It was not cast properly. It just went down the drain. It was very frustrating. My hubris caught up with me. So at that night, my teacher said, hey, you could sit down and you could write your own shit. And that's what I did. I was so frustrated. I don't want to. You know, we procrastinate to write stuff, right? I sit down. I wrote a short. I wrote it like 2 or 3 times, and then I produced it. So it's on Vimeo. If you look for my name, you'll find it. And I got really a good hang of this. I was pretty good at it. So I started writing from this story. I wrote many screenplays, like really a lot of movies. But then I came back in 2013. You know, it was over with this. So I came back and started writing again, and then from that story I started writing a book. And then I wrote a book, and I'm not that good at writing because English is not my first language. So. The story is great, though. The story is great. The reading is like, people get bored after a while. Anyway, so that's the movie part. So, yeah, I had to give up my dreams of a movie, although I'm staying in Vancouver now, so there's a lot of movie made and stuff. I never know. I work for a camera company. Never know. I could get back into it. So, that's the story of the movie making thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir. Yeah, the web person. What's your name? Yes. What do you mean?
So the PGA SID project, they produced this sort of...
Yes.
So if they expanded that much out of your samples onto it, it might be good.
I know, but he didn't want to do it. He was like, oh, no, it's... Because in my request I said it should be cheap. And apparently for him, cheap didn't work out. You know, because, you know... But again, we didn't talk a lot, we just agreed to just wait for time to pass to get to a point where people would be interested, and if the product picks up, I'm sure we'll be interested. Because I think his version is probably one of the best, and I wish I could have access to it, but like I said, maybe like a licensing something, maybe integrated directly into because it's using the same kind of FPGAs, so we could integrate it into Matrix. That could be possibly a way to go. But I'm not going to buy his stuff for 130 euros each. That's not going to happen. You know, for your sake, because you don't want to spend 2/3 of the product on freaking audio chips. Aside, we could do without, but I don't know if people would like it. But anyway. And again, it's really for saving an endangered species, you know. So it's really the deal here. And I've been like, yeah, no, don't do that. You're gonna run out of chips. What are you gonna do? Anyway, other questions? Yes, sir.
Sorry, my English is not really good English.
Don't worry, mine is not good either.
Probably I don't catch very well when you talking about the system. But this system is a 64-bit or 32-bit. What is the power of this system?
Well, this is the external part of the CPU is 8-bit. Okay, it's an 8-bit system, but the CPU has a 16-bit mode, which means inside the registers, like the accumulators, the X and Y, can be either 8 bits or 16-bit wide. And they've been adding 8-bit more for the address. So which means you can access 16 megs of RAM instead of just 64K. So that's really the difference, and there's the instructions to actually switch from one to the other. So you can work all of your things in 8-bit all the way, and then all of a sudden you decide to switch in 16-bit. So when the processor goes outside to fetch the data, instead of fetching 1 byte, it's going to fetch 2 and bring the data in. So that's what it is. It's the super, they call it the super CPU, right? So it's really like, I call it a pseudo 16-bit. It's not really a 16-bit like an Amiga. An Amiga was really 16-bit.
If you use something like a microcontroller onto CPU, is now maybe the system is more.
What do you mean, replacing that CPU for a microcontroller?
Yeah. Use a microcontroller onto CPU. I mean, the CPU use basically everything outside, like the memory, memory ROM, PIA, everything out. The microcontroller have basically most of those devices built in.
Yeah, but you're missing the point. The point of that system is to be like 1987. 1987, there was no microcontroller. That's the point. Otherwise, I would have done that, or I would have used an FPGA, because FPGA, you can instantiate all these bugs on the FPGA and do everything. So that's the point. Any other question? Yes, sir. The person who doesn't want me to win the Commodore or the Amiga. Commodore man himself. There you go.
So what is the target price point?
Oh yes, the money. Okay, that's the sweet spot questions. Everybody is standing on their chairs like, oh, I don't want the shoes, it's too expensive. How much do you want it to be? What's your price range? Huh? $1,000? Yes, I'm a taker. I'll take it. Anybody else? Who wants to? What would you be willing to pay for this? What? 256? It's a freaking good idea, man. It's awesome. I like it because it's actually it's awesome. I love you. Okay, well, I wouldn't say seriously because I really think that'd be awesome. Any other ideas? What's your budget is? I mean, I know, apparently Jim tells me that everybody buys everything, so really the money is no issue, right?
Would there be a developer cost separate from the end user gamer cost? I mean, would there be a developer platform, like $1,400, $1,500? Too early to talk about developer cost.
The cost?
Or for the developer, I mean. Like,
well, the cost is really, listen, I'm not in there to make money. It's not the point. I'm not, the thing is, I don't want to, take all that money and use it to build these units. I'm already spending a lot of my money to do it. At the end, I don't care. The thing is, if a developer wants to come in, I will sell the board at the price it costs me. I'm not going to make money on it. Listen, the board right now costs about 300 and something US to make, with the parts and everything. Okay? And it's a 1Z, okay? Mauser, DigiKey. So we're talking about going all the way to China and making it like in mass production. We're talking about way half the price. And I'm not looking for to make profit. So it's really about just covering my costs and selling it. Unless people want services and support, that's a different story. It will be more expensive. That people will have to understand that. But I'm not here to make profit. It's really like I'm going to say a bad word right now, Raspberry Pi Foundation. They're not into make profit. It's the same thing. I'm not here for make profit. And actually, if I can offload it to somebody else like Jim and say, hey, Jim, here's the file, go manufacture it and make money on it if you want to.
Woohoo!
It would be easier.
256.
Yeah, $56 could be possible, without tax, of course, but it could be a selling price. Listen, in the best world, I think if it's just the top of my head, but probably under $300 would be a selling price. So I think, which I think is very, very fair.
I'll be paid more if it's made in the USA.
If it's made in USA?
Yeah, I will pay more money if it's made in the USA. I will not mind. Will pay another 200.
So how much are you willing to pay for having a product made in the USA? $400? Okay. Anybody interested for people to do the same? Would you be willing to pay more to get it manufactured here?
How about?
Okay, that's one of the questions
I think a $400 price, amount for something like this is a very fair amount.
You tell me, that's what I'm saying. How much are you willing to pay? That's the question. Then it brings another question. Well, I mean, you have an idea how much it costs, okay? So it's not like I'm not bullshitting you. It's really about the money I have to shed every time I'm buying parts to build one, okay? And considering that I'm paying like $15 for the PCB made in China, okay, so, you know, we don't like going in China, I get it. I don't like it either, but it's cheap and it's cheap.
Another question. There is not a capability to do that here?
No, there is, I'm sure, but they're going to charge you more.
Exactly. So that's why.
It's no, but you're willing to pay the price, but maybe not everybody is willing to do it. Listen, we can put that into a vote at some point and decide. My next question is really I think. Jim tells me, well, in China it seems to make much difference. In North America, I think it would make a big difference. Okay, you saw the boards. Okay, it's half surface mount, it's half through hole. Okay, I think it gives the board a real look and feel of 1987. But you understand that building a board like that is more expensive because hand-built stuff and surface mount machine and then people putting components in. So it's more expensive. I mean, I think in the US it would be way more expensive. He tells me that in China, probably not because, you know, they're paying, you know what I'm talking about. So would you rather have a board like this, pay a little bit more, or have a more completely surface mount aside of the SIDS?
I think in reality, the community as a whole, I don't think that they would go and pay $1,200 for it. I just don't think that they would get into it.
Well, I didn't say $1,200, you said.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying if we were to have it manufactured here in the States, yeah, it is considerable. But just hypothetically speaking. But if it were to be in the $200 to $400 range, I think that's really something that would attract a lot of people.
Okay, but the question now is, would you mind to have a completely surface mount?
Well, it would change the looks, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you think, guys?
What's the question?
The question is that because it's surface mount, there was a time where we were in transition between having true hole components and surface mount components. There's a lot of computers that have both. This one has both, but it costs more because people have to put the true hole components. So by machine, it would probably be able to find a decent pricing in North America if the board was made completely in surface mount because a machine is a machine no matter what. Okay, they're going to charge you maybe a little bit more at the front end, but it's going to be about the same. But the board will look completely different.
I will not mind that.
Okay, the box is closed, so maybe we wouldn't mind, but the purists will say differently. But that's why I'm asking the question. I don't know.
Unless it's a transparent fence as well.
Oh, you could have a transparent fence all you want. Because if I do a Kickstarter, we'll probably do it molding. In the molding, then you could have the different colors that everybody has so far.
What if you do a cost-reduced version like Commodore?
So you're saying that I should have both? Start with a very, very expensive version and sell it very expensive and then lower it down? Maybe. What do you think?
It's a fair question. You're asking a fair question. You're trying to open up a reimagined old school product to a much larger public. And I think in order to open that up to a largest possible public, you're going to have to give in on the technical design as well as the sourcing of the components and get to a cost level that may be able to open up an entire market that didn't exist before. We've seen that at work with the Raspberry. The Raspberry was brought to a price point that any Joe would just buy that thing on a whim and start playing around with it. And that's been really powerful. We can say a lot of negative things about the whole RPI, but it did open up an audience that we weren't able to touch any time before. So there's a lot to be said to cater from a thinking point of view to the retro crowd.
Okay.
But actually opening up that retro platform on the hardware side and the budget side to a much larger audience that couldn't care less if this thing is through hole set up or anything like that.
Like any other products, actually, because it's usually the way it works.
Exactly.
The beginning, they're more expensive, they're fancier.
And since which is really nice, and you've said it a couple of times now, you're not counting any of your hours, which is unique in the world. And Jim, I'm very happy that you highlighted. Can you talk a little bit about your credibility in this?
Yeah.
There's no, you come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
You come up with this story, oh, I'll take this on, and everybody's thinking like, who's this cuckoo? Now you're here. Wait, that's what everybody thinks. No one says it out loud, but that's what they're thinking. Now you're here with an almost working product, and I know you had worked really hard to even show some screen, which would have been like, you want to silence the crowd, that's going to
No,
be
I
that.
know.
Yeah.
And everybody here has seen how hard you work to get to that, and you will get to that. So you've convinced this crowd. You're going to convince a much larger crowd in this next phase. And then a lot of people are going to come in and start helping out that are capable to do so.
Yeah.
If you want to open up to a real large audience, you are going to have to think, what is my baby going to look like? Because you've already demonstrated that you can do it real old school style. The retro community has seen what you're capable of. Now, do you want that other community that couldn't care less about how you did that internal design, but does like the whole philosophy of opening up a reimagined new retro computer? If that's important to you, then you should start thinking about how do I get tapped into it.
It makes sense. No,
So that's my opinion.
No, I think it makes complete sense. I mean, at the beginning, you make it more like it is now, and over time, when you go into bigger numbers, if it reach that point, you say, you know, let's make a new version that is. And it's true. I never really thought about it that way. Like that's the way Commodore used to do things. It's like, okay, let's cost it down. So the price will go down.
But it does mean that now, unlike what Commodore did, never thought that this thing would take off like it did, you can already start designing for that now. So that by the time you get to the Kickstarter phase, you not only have something you can show that worked based on complete retro components and say, hey, I took this at heart, but you're already ready. And by the way, this is the view of the complete FPGA or whatever surface mount, whatever the latest hype is, and low cost production. And this is going to be the exact same thing. It's just not going to look like this. And we do that to open up to a much larger audience and be able to bring it down under there.
Well, at that point, Kickstarter time, you can have both. You can have like for more money, you say this is.
I like to keep it super simple.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying that.
You could have both.
I think both would be a good
You
idea.
could have both. You could have like NVIDIA does the what's the original version they come up with, like the foundation, what's the name?
Yeah.
The founder
Founders
edition
version, yeah.
is that the original you sell more.
A US pick and place founder edition, socketed.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, like locally made and
Yeah.
everything, and then you have the Chinese version, which is.
And all of the Tech Valley where I live will
Yeah.
buy the $1,000 version.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly my point. I will be able, a lot of people will be more than happy to get the made in America, even if it's the same as the one made in China, because then you will say, mine is the American made. So it will be really valuable. So that's
No, I agree with you in that sense. My thought about it was just that I cannot produce, let's say, thousands of these in North America and keep a price low enough to get those people you're talking about, the lower tiers, the people that really want to get into the content of what the creator created without having to, they don't care about what's in the box. As opposed to the real purists that, hey, I have like the founder edition and say this is like the real thing. Or the developer edition. Well, it would be different anyway. The developer is a different story. The developer edition is really for the developer, will be kept separately because it's going to be a slightly different design for the developer to do their thing. And this will be available as well. So anybody who wants to in, they'll have the whole kit within ready and they can do things. Because obviously any hardware with any software is just useless. So this is my target right now. My target is the developers right now. Later, what you said makes sense. What you said makes sense. I think it would be great, actually. Yeah, but people would have to pay more. But we could put a different tiers for it. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
I was wondering after I read your Snap EDA interview sort of thing, if you had a chance to talk again with Bill Burr, because I noticed he was like the second person to jump on comment.
Yeah, I think Bill was. No, I never spoke to Bill directly. I think Bill was under the impression that it would be another C64 by the answers he gave. Like I would have to go through the redesign of the VIC chip again, and talking about how tweaky and like so cool and everything. But so I think so I don't know if he went back to check or anything. So I never had anything with him. So I don't know.
What about talking about the SID chips, what about these third-party marketers? I've picked up a Swin SID.
Swin SID and all those.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good Swin SID is Swin or Swin.
Swin. S-W-I-N.
N-I-N.
Yeah.
Okay, the Swin chip, for a while they were open source. The latest one, which is the best one, is not. I've not talked to them. Maybe I should. So yeah, I mean, if they're willing to do something, that'd be great. Because if it would have been open source, then I would have kept it, not kept it, but I would have taken it and tried to spin it myself and tried to use it and cutting the middleman. But if they're interested to do something, but I thought it was like abandoned, they were not going to do it anymore. So that's the other thing I heard about it. So can somebody confirm or infirm what this thing is?
I think to that whole point is you need to go to the open source. What's out there? There's a few open source that may not be as good as the closed source that are available. You're going to have to draw the line somewhere in order to A, speed the market, and B, just the realism about the price point that you're trying to get. And that's okay. And then if at some point in time more people get into this and want to make a reimagined open source, the community will pick that up. But you shouldn't, it's kind of like, you're at a stage now where for certain things, like you did on the video, you did already draw a line. You've made up your mind. I think on some of the other items you're going to do that. Made a great remark with regards to Dimitris, who's suggesting certain API calls. Listen to that. He's done this now for, I don't know, 15 systems.
Yeah.
It's not just him, but it's not just him. It's all the others that aren't public about that.
Yeah.
That have been going through those 15 as well. And it's kind of trying to understand quickly where those items sit, make a decision about it, and then just stick to them and go forward.
Because for the SID, there's another way to go, and it's the buy the unit and put yours in there. Okay? So either you get the Swin chip, or you put your own. Or we sell you some, but then, at some point we run out, I got them cheap, but I'm not going to get them cheap like that all the time, So $50, $60, I'm not going to do that. So it's Swin chip it is. I don't even know how much the Swin chip is.
I don't know.
It's a SMD, it's a SMD.
We'll talk, there's some options that you don't know about yet, actually. So
okay, there's other options?
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay, so there's other options. I don't worry too much about the audio side. I'm sure we're going to find out. But in terms of vision, that's what I would see. I would like to see SID version 2 enhanced for the C256, for the fact that the C256 will be recognized for that. And it's not because I don't like the others. I love it. This is an honor for me to do this. This is honoring what was done in the past. But I think at that point, in following the same vision, is that I think having a extended version of it would be awesome, which would give like an edge to it.
I think the SID is an awesome approach. Just for me, from being in the Commodore community, and I really like the SID chip. And there's a lot of people out there that are following that.
Yeah.
It would be an awesome.
But how to keep it going without killing it by taking all the supply, whatever supply there's left.
That's the trick. Well, there's a lot of people that they're cannibalizing what's left out there.
Yeah, but then they're selling like each chip like $75 each, which is insane. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to kill it. I want to make it better, but keep the vibe of it and everything without killing it. But I know the purists will come around and say, "Oh no, it's not really a real thing." But I cannot please everybody else. So, but I want to give it a twist. I want to give something an edge that will be okay. This is SID 2, and this is like because there's already a lot of sound, but it's the FM sound. So the sound of the FM, the Yamaha, and the SID will be quite something. But if we could have like just a little bit of sampling in there, I think it would be awesome. And I think that's one of the things I'd like to add to it. It's just like a little bit of sampling in there, a little bit more voices, mini voices, 6. Great. Then we're talking awesome. Anything else?
Any other questions? Anyone?
You're tired? You want to go home? No, we want more. Yeah. No other questions? No?
Yeah, one question.
Okay, one last question here. Don't go away. Don't go.
How do you manage not to get your scripts stolen in Hollywood?
Because it's not interesting enough for them. It's not a superhero movie. You know how Hollywood works. They want something that sells.
Also, if it's a good script and it's not about a hero, they would not.
I don't know. Not so long ago, I went back to writing scripts. I wrote the fourth Matrix because they want to do another Matrix, and because it's written from somebody outside of Hollywood, they don't want it because of copyrights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So so it's just okay. Let's write number 4. You've seen the Matrix, did you? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. So that's the whole story. Another question here. No microcontroller, dude.
Is that board dual-sided?
No, one-sided. I mean, there's one thing that is underneath, and maybe I will have to change it. Yeah, I know. It's a surface mounted LED underneath for the light pipe underneath. So it's cool. Probably like a true old applied will be doing the same. Yeah.
Well, it's a production cost issue.
Of course,
yeah,
of course, you have to flip the board. No, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. This is still the developer edition. So the real user version, I might have put like a rectangle lamp like the others. So that's what I'm saying. If you go in molding, the board might change. You might put a keyboard with it, you know? That's...
What about if you use dual-sided mounting? What about if you use dual-sided mounting?
Well, there's no reason to do that because I'm trying to stick on one side. It's cheaper to do one side than two sides. You know, I'm not running out. Well, I'm pretty packed, but I didn't want to go both sides.
Look at the Commodore 64 or 128 Amiga. They're all single-sided.
Single-sided, and they were like two
Two-layer. Most of
yeah,
everything's
mine is
two-layer.
4-layer boards.
Yeah.
It's pretty dense because of the fact that I was using a 3D printed enclosure. If I was using this C64C enclosure or C65 enclosure, you do C65 guy, don't go away. So I was using a C65 enclosure that the Amiga 65 got the mold of, and using this with plenty of space, that would be great.
You think you can do 64 microprocessor, all those power single board side?
You still want a C64, don't you?
I mean, it's 64-bit microprocessor. I mean, I'm sorry, 64-bit, 64.
No, there's no C64. No, not for me anyway.
It's 8-bit microprocessor.
Yeah, it's this. I mean, if you run it, it's because that's what I'm saying. You can run the processor in that unit like a 65 or 2, like a C64.
Yeah, 65 or 2 is 8-bit.
8-bit microprocessor. The 816 is just like an extended version of it. That is, they just change it a little bit.
You want to use definitely 65 or 2. You want to basically use the same microprocessor that they use on the bit.
Yes, but the extended version, that's what I was saying. When we start the unit, it will be in 816 version.
You don't want to use different microprocessor.
No. It's one, but this one you can switch internally with an instruction. You can switch from one to the other. So if you have a C64 and you know somebody wants to do the change on the LPG to get a C64, fine, you can run your software on it if you want. But the idea is really not to go that way. But if you want to switch back to a normal C65, 65 C02, and in between of your software, you can. But the unit will be written for 16-bit, not for 8-bit. Any other thing? Jim, you have any questions? Beautiful lady up there?
No.
Why, guys, I know she's amazing, huh? You move from there to there. What's going on there? You should look her up. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.